Welcome to the Mystery of Life. I'm Jo.
And I'm Jonny.
And today we're asking what went wrong on the Mary Celeste, which is a ship, not a boat.
Well, potato.
No, I think of boat more like kind of speedboat, little like rowboat, whereas like a ship is almost like a big kind of what you would imagine like a piratey ship to look like with sails and...
I think that's generally correct usage of those terms.
Yeah, they have got names, but no one knows what boats are called.
I think a ship is a boat, but a boat, like all ships are boats, but not all boats are ships.
Okay, well, this is a ship. And she was first registered in 1861 in Nova Scotia, launched as Amazon. And I guess we must still launch ships, but it just feels like it more of a big deal in history, doesn't it? Because like, when was the last time you read about like a ship launching or even heard of a ship launching?
You occasionally get them.
Do we?
When it's like one of like the QE2 or like one of those type like royal ships or a new like Navy ship you might hear about.
Do they still do the whole like champagne on the side of the boat thing?
Assume so. I haven't been to many ship launchings, to
Really?
be perfectly honest.
Do you think they've scaled back what with like the cost of living? It's now like Bucks Fizz or something.
I just think there's more entertainment in the world that people don't give a shit about it anymore.
Maybe. I also suppose there's like better methods of like travel, so it's not like a big deal when you've got a boat that can like travel the seven seas.
Not really, no. We've been to space, mate. A boat's not very impressive.
Okay, well, things were fairly uneventful for the start of her life. As much as any other ship, it just sort of bobbed about on the sea. I have looked into a lot of the history of the boat, and it kind of really doesn't matter. So I'll write a little bit more about it in this week's blog, but it's not linked to this story at all, so I'm not going to get too much into the history. You might be interested to know, though, that she was the subject of a painting in 1861, so perhaps we were to assume she was a fairly pretty boat.
Maybe, or just someone like boats. There's a lot of pictures of boats.
Yeah, but surely you only painted the pretty boats.
I mean, what makes a boat pretty?
I don't know. I suppose there weren't always like that much else to paint. No, that's rubbish. There must have been loads of stuff to paint.
Well,
just
anything
different.
you can see.
Yeah. Anywho, in 1867, she was driven, or sailed, I suppose, into a storm, and her owners
Don't
declared
suppose about that. She was definitely not driven. She was sailed.
Well, yeah, but like you're still steering it.
So, you're not driving it. You're still steering a plane, but you're flying it.
Well,
Me.
Okay, I suppose. No, I think you're probably right on that one. Okay, so she sailed into a storm and her owners declared her a wreck. In December 1868, she was renamed and re-registered in New York as the Mary Celeste. So here we have our ship. And in 1869, she was sold to a consortium owned by James H. Winchester. Over the next 3 years, there are no records of kind of any sort of trading activity, but she does undergo a major $10,000 refit, and she got bigger and increased her tonnage.
I don't get how you can make a boat bigger without it being a new boat.
She got longer and wider and deeper, and they extended the poop deck.
So what bit of it was remainder of the boat?
I don't know, like the stern, maybe? Is that the bit where the wheel is? I don't know. I'm making this up. I've no idea.
I'm not a nautical historian. I just know the odd term.
I mean, if I'm honest, I didn't think this would be one of the things that you would pick on. I thought you would just accept that she got longer, wider, and deeper.
I'm just saying it's not the same boat, is it?
Well, it is the same boat.
I was saying, oh yeah, it's the exact same car. What I did was put an entirely new body on it.
Yeah, but I think like if you're making a car bigger, well, I don't know that you can make a car bigger.
You could, but it wouldn't be the same fucking car anymore.
Yeah, but with a boat, right? Now, bear with me. I'll have no idea if this is true. Okay, but with a boat, obviously you've got a lot of like stuff going on under the deck, right? So what if you just build around it? So you're just like, you're increasing the space, but it's still the same boat, just with like literally an extension.
Well, that is pretty much what they would have done.
So it is the same boat. If you extend a house, it's the same house. It just got bigger.
That's like, if you build a car from scrap, it's not the same, like...
Yeah, but you can't just weld a bit of... Well, you could weld a bit of car on the side, but like, this is a wooden boat.
I'm just saying, it's weird to make a boat bigger in all dimensions.
Okay, well, that's what they did.
It seems like they could have just built a new boat.
I mean, I don't know how much new boats cost, but yeah, I mean, $10,000 seemed like a lot of money. So, in 1872, it got a new captain, Benjamin Spooner Briggs. Now, Captain Briggs was a very religious man, and in 1862, he married his cousin, Sarah Cobb.
Yeah, it was pretty standard at the time.
Yeah, I mean, no one really made a big thing of it, so fine, okay. They had 2 children, and it was noted that he was a very well-respected captain. In his chosen career, he was sort of well-known, and everyone kind of thought, yeah, he's a good captain. He actually bought shares in the ship and prepared it for its first voyage since her big refit, and he picked out his crew carefully, including men that he had worked with before or that had been recommended to him, and he took his wife and infant daughter with him on the ship, but his older son would stay behind with family to go to school. And both the wife and Captain Briggs reported to their parents before they left how happy they were with the crew that they had picked. So all seems good, right?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like anyone had any complaints, at least.
So on October 20th, 1872, Captain Briggs supervised the loading of 1,701 barrels of alcohol, which was the cargo that they would transport to Genoa, which is off the coast of Italy.
That's a mad amount of flammable liquid.
Is it? But I think also it does
On
give
a
you an
wooden
idea.
boat, I'd be very, very cautious of any transporting anything flammable, explosive.
It was in barrels.
Oh, those wooden barrels, famously.
But what I mean is that obviously I do agree that it's like volatile, but I don't know if that's like a lot. But it does make you think, like realise, I think, how big this ship really was.
Well, yeah, it fit 1,700 barrels in it. That's a lot of barrels, depending on the size of the barrel. Those little ones that the rescue dogs wear, full of brandy, not so much.
No, I feel like they're probably like a kind of fairly standard barrel. What's a standard barrel? Like knee height?
I don't know.
Anyway, it's a lot of barrels. On Tuesday, November 5th, they were due to set sail. They moved into the harbour, but weather was uncertain, so Captain Briggs anchored them just off Staten Island. Within a couple of days, conditions improved, and they set off into the Atlantic. It was also noted there was a Canadian ship, the De Gratia, nearby in Hoboken, New Jersey, that had a cargo of petroleum. So that's, I'd say, probably more dangerous.
I mean, they're not 2 ships I'd send together, so I don't know.
And they were waiting to set sail for Genoa as well, although they would be travelling via Gibraltar. So they'd take a similar route, but they'd be a little bit behind the Mary Celeste. They ended up setting off 8 days later. Now, not much is known about the time at sea for the Mary Celeste. And I guess like communication would have been limited because it's not like now where you can probably just phone in at this point, can't you?
Yeah, sat phones exist.
Yeah. So I guess you must be able to get quite a way out and your mobile still works. Probably not quite in the middle of the sea. I don't know, actually.
No, I think it all has to be satellite.
But yeah, you can definitely communicate very well now, but you couldn't in the late 1800s. So we don't know. If it wasn't eventful, it wasn't written down. Now, on December the 4th or December the 5th, and this depends on whether you're talking land time or sea time, did you know that there were a different time zone?
No clue.
So apparently it's into nautical time and it divides up the sea into 24-hour time zones. It is a little bit more complex than that, but essentially, yeah, the sea's got its own time zone. So we're either December the 4th land time or December the 5th sea time, based on where they were in the sea.
Seems overly complicated.
It does, doesn't it? I couldn't figure out why. It seemed to be a way to make it a bit easier for all the ships and knowing where they were. But if anything, it just confused things. Like, I don't know, why not be the same? Like, I don't know. Anyway, that's the thing, nautical time. So they were midway between Azores, which is a Portuguese region, and they're about 1,000 miles off the coast of Portugal. Captain Morehouse of the De Gratia is sailing along, and he comes to the deck where the helmsman reports a vessel about 6 miles away heading towards them unsteadily. Captain Morehouse finds the vessel's movements erratic, and he remarks that the sails look a bit off, so he decides something must be wrong, and they get a bit closer. The closer they got, they realise that no one's on deck. So they get even closer, and he sends 2 of his men aboard who establish that it was the Mary Celeste, and that was based on the name on the stern. They found no one aboard.
Spooky shit.
Right, it is, isn't it? And it doesn't get any less spooky. So they reported that the sails were in poor condition and only partly set, and some were missing altogether. The ship had a single lifeboat which was missing. The binnacle, do you know what a binnacle is?
That's the bit that holds the compass.
How do you know all these things?
No.
Yeah, it's like a little kind of stand. It's about waist high and it houses the compass. That was noted that the glass cover had broken and the compass had shifted in place, although it was still there. They did find some water in the hold, but apparently this was not a concerning amount for a ship of this size. They also found a makeshift sounding rod abandoned on the deck, and these were used for measuring how much water was in the hold. They did find the ship's log, and the last entry was dated November 25th, so 9 days earlier, and 400 nautical miles away. Yeah, that's another thing. Nautical miles and land miles apparently are different.
Well, at least come up with a different word.
Also, though, but why is and I couldn't really establish a decent answer than this, because when you Google why sea miles and land miles are different, it just explains to you the difference rather than like, why did we ever need it at all? Which maybe is what I should have Googled. But I'll put that in the blog if I find out. So they found the cabin interiors to be wet and untidy, but that was from water which had entered through the skylight. Otherwise, there was sort of no significant damage, and it was mostly in good order. In the captain's quarters, they find a sheathed sword under the bed, but most of the ship's papers were missing, as were the captain's navigational instruments. There was a lot of supplies and provisions, about 6 months' worth, they reckon. There was no sign of food actually having been prepared to eat. That's not to say that they hadn't eaten the whole time. And there was no sign of it sort of mid preparation, but there was definitely food. So it wasn't like they've starved. So what are your thoughts at this stage?
My thoughts are that is some weird shit.
If I was the guy or guys that had to climb onto this boat, I'd be really like spooked, especially since like you're in the middle of the sea, there's nothing around, and you're just on this empty boat where it's literally just frozen in time. I don't know, creepy. So Captain Morehouse decides that they're going to bring the boat into Gibraltar, which is 600 nautical miles away. And under maritime law, he could expect to receive quite a significant share of the combined value of the cargo and the vessel. However, the actual award depended on the kind of danger in bringing in the ship. He split his crew, so it then meant that both ships were now dangerously undercrewed. Which, I don't know, is it worth it?
Well, yeah, a share of what could be is probably millions.
I don't know about millions.
Well, not in their money, but in today's money it would have been.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in today's money. Yeah, certainly. But it was okay. The De Gratia arrived on December 12th, but the Mary Celeste got involved with like some fog, and she arrived the following morning. She was impounded by the Vice Admiralty Court and prepared for a salvage hearing.
Sounds like a laugh riot.
Yeah, that took 3 months. That seems like a long time to talk about a ship, but I suppose we do have quite a lot to talk about because you've literally lost. Normally, when I tell you these stories, like we've lost the whole ship or the whole plane. But it's just like we've got the biggest clue of all in that we've got the ship. And yet.
It's fucking weird circumstances. Like, I just so happened to come across this empty ship in perfect condition with all of its cargo. Can I have some money, please?
I hear a little suspicion in your voice.
You hear a lot of suspicion in my voice.
Okay, well, you weren't the only one that was suspicious. So the hearing was conducted by Frederick Solly Flood. There was a number of people involved, but he was like the main guy. He was the Attorney General. He ordered an examination of the Mary Celeste, including help from a shipping surveyor and a diver, which, sensible. They first had to consider barratry, which is fraud or gross negligence of a ship's master or crew at the expense of its owners or user. So, yeah, are they screwing over the owner?
Not really in this instance.
Well, the things they had to look at are dereliction, desertion, scuttling, theft, and mutiny. But I think we can rule out some of these like pretty much straight away. So, first of all, scuttling. Do you know what scuttling is?
Sinking a ship on purpose.
How on earth do you know these things?
Stuff and things.
Like, I had to Google that. I honestly don't know how people know what scuttling is. And I've read like a fair few like pirate books. No, scuttling, I don't feel like I've taken it in.
Well, it's not just a pirate term. There's lots of reasons to scuttle a ship.
Okay, but you're right. It is intentionally sinking the ship. And we can rule that out straight away because...
they didn't.
We've got the ship. Or they had the ship.
Or they're really fucked up scuttling.
Yeah. So we can rule out scuttling. Now, theft.
Yeah. This is a stolen boat, isn't it?
Well, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because
no, it's not.
But barratry, under the terms of barratry, they're looking at whether it's fraud or gross negligence of a ship's master or crew at the expense of its owners or user. Now, I don't think you can blame the master or the crew because we don't know where they are. and they haven't stolen it. And if they tried to steal it, they've done a terrible, terrible job because they are nowhere to be found and the ship is in the hands of the court.
Well, yeah, but it was stolen by the person that gave them it.
Okay, possibility, and we'll come to that. Then we've got dereliction, deliberate or conscious neglect. But I think we can rule that out as well because, the boat was in pretty good shape.
Well, apart from the fact that it was sailing unmanned in the middle of the ocean.
Oh, yes, but
I'd say they are definitely guilty of dereliction of duty. Whatever happened, they're not on the boat.
Yeah, but the boat was all right. So that was more luck than anything else.
Well, yeah, it might not have been. It's not because of their hard work. They left it.
I think you can probably then consider desertion like the more reasonable option because they definitely did that. Like whatever happened to him, whether it was like on purpose or not, that ship was deserted.
Yeah.
So, but everyone that knew Captain Briggs said that he was like just wouldn't have done that. Like not by choice, not unless there was some sort of like extreme reason to do so. He was from a well-respected sea family as well. So he had like a father and brothers that were also like really well-respected captains. And let's not forget, he had shares in this boat.
Yeah, he had stuff to lose on this. But I also assume that the boat is insured.
There's a number of insurance policies.
As a shareholder, I'm assuming he's entitled to some of that money.
Well, only if they know where he is. And if something happened to the boat, ultimately they've got the boat.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying his plan didn't go wrong.
Well, ultimately, all of these points came to naught. You do make a good point about insurance. They did look at that. James Winchester, these kind of like company that owned it, the kind of head of that, he had a big insurance policy, and the company who the cargo belonged to had a couple of very big insurance policies. But no one ever really questioned the integrity of the policyholders. And ultimately, I suppose you have to assume that no one really got any money from any of those insurance claims because the ship was okay. And eventually the cargo got delivered. Maybe you can claim for lateness. I don't know. But
yeah, it still doesn't mean that the plan wasn't an insurance job and they fucked it up.
Yeah, maybe they planned it, but yeah, they definitely fucked it up if that's what they were doing. They also spent a long time in the hearing looking at mutiny, and they looked at connections between the crew and the captain and anyone else in contact with them or connected to the ship. And to cut a long story short, they decided they couldn't prove mutiny or intent of mutiny. And I'll detail that a little bit more in the blog this week, just like how everyone was connected together. But it kind of came to nothing. They couldn't, I guess, see it. I can't see like a motive as to what mutiny would have done because they didn't like kill off the captain and his family and run off with the boat. They've all gone. Again,
if it was a mutiny, they've fucked it up.
Yeah. So
whatever outcome, they fucked up.
Someone fucked up, didn't they? Something's gone wrong here. Despite all of this, he's not able to prove it, but Flood, the Attorney General guy, was convinced of foul play, and he tried hard to prove this. He then said that they'd found some cuts on the bow, which they deemed to be from a sharp object, although didn't elaborate on what that might be. He claimed they found traces of blood on the captain's sword, and he said that they didn't think the ship had fallen foul to poor weather, as they found a vial of sewing machine oil that was upright and not spilled over. Although no one addresses the fact that you could have replaced that, because let's not forget, they, got on this boat and sailed it back 600 nautical miles to Gibraltar.
Yeah, you would have thought that they might fix up things that have fallen over in that time just because they're on it. But if, again, they were meant to be quite shortly manned, so I don't think tidying up was their priority.
I also can't imagine that the sewing machine was their priority.
No.
If I'm assuming sewing machine means the same then as it does now.
But oil could leave like a residue, or it might be a reason they know it didn't spill, but
yeah.
Certainly doesn't sound like there was much of a kerfuffle.
No, there was nothing on the hull to suggest that it had been involved in a collision or run aground. They also found some stains on the ship's rails that they thought might have been blood, and a deep mark that might have been caused by an axe, although they didn't find.
Well, the ships are like working places. Men cut themselves and cut things on the wood and stuff like wear and tear happen.
Yeah.
I don't think you can go there's a mark there. It's definitely mutiny.
Well, he was trying. That's what he tried to do. He proposed that the crew had gotten into the alcohol, gotten drunk, murdered the captain and his family, fled in the lifeboat to suffer an unknown fate.
Why wouldn't you flee in the big boat full of alcohol?
Right. At least try and like sell it off in some kind of like dark pirate market or something.
Yeah, all we've got to do is take the name off the back, dickheads.
Yeah, it's not like they've got like...
There's been a modern boat.
ANPR
There was a modern boat that did that.
Really? Well, we can't track real lifeboats now.
To some degree we can, but only if they are willing to play the game. So like, there's a boat, an illegal fishing boat that has gone to several ports all over around the world, and like is known about, but keeps changing its name and like moving about. And they just like, I think they finally caught the captain in the end. But yeah, it was a boat that was illegal fishing all over the world.
But couldn't someone like catch up with it and be like, I then I suppose there's this whole like weird law thing, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if that's a bit of a myth.
What?
International waters and all that.
No, that's not a myth. There
So I guess if he gets to a certain point, he's like, you can't catch me.
Yeah, if he gets away, and then they just like, it's hard to track people.
So yeah, so in 1868, he 100% could have got away with it. They didn't even seem to try. So I don't know. Not a lot of other people were convinced by this. But he then went on to add that he thought Captain Morehouse was involved. And I'm guessing this is where your suspicion was pointing at.
Yeah, but slightly different. I don't think he was involved in the mutiny. I just think he killed some people.
Well, Flood said that he couldn't believe the ship had sailed so far by itself and that he thought the logs had been doctored. I mean, what's the point as well in 1868? Like, just don't write in it at all. I don't know. I don't know about doctoring the logs. Obviously, bear in mind, the logs said that the last log was made on November the 25th, and it seemed to have travelled about 400 nautical miles away from there. And the theory was that it sailed itself, at least some of that way. Although we don't really know at what point everyone got off the boat.
We don't know anything. It's all the word of this captain. We don't know he found the boat where he said he found it. We don't know anything about it. We don't know what condition he found it in. I imagine he found it on course with a boat full of people, and he amended that situation.
Wow, so you're like strongly into this before you've even heard any other theories.
Yeah, because it's the only one one of the only ones with any form of plausibility.
Well, you weren't alone. Like, Flood was really not willing to let this go. This dragged on for 3 months. And on January the 15th, James Winchester arrived and asked when the ship could be released to deliver her cargo. He was then made aware that Flood thought that he actually even might have been part of a mutiny plot and arranged to have had Briggs killed. I think at this point, Flood's just reaching at straws. And then Winchester testified to say that Briggs was of strong character and he definitely wouldn't have abandoned the ship unless in extremity. Later in the hearing, towards the end, a scientific study found that the stains on the boat and the sword were not blood, and a captain in the US Navy testified that the marks on the bow were not man-made, but would have been caused by natural actions in the sea on ship timber. So eventually, Flood couldn't really support any of his claims, even though he fully believed that this was all like a bit, iffy. So he released the boat on the 25th of February and it sailed to Genoa and delivered its cargo. The salvage payment was awarded in April at £1,700 or dollars, but this was far lower than the expected amount. And the judge actually said that Morehouse and his crew would be forever under the suspicion of the court of public opinion. So they obviously agree with you.
There's some harsh words from the judge there. I like it.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. I don't think you'd be allowed to say that today because, like, if you've been found innocent, which essentially, like, he wasn't really on criminal trial, but clearly they couldn't prove any of it. But he said his piece.
He did say his piece. Basically, I think you stole this, but I can't prove it.
So that's what you think. So let's get into it. So you think he did it on purpose or came across the boat and then thought, I'm having them?
That is definitely up for debate.
Now, remember, his boat left 8 days after the Mary Celeste.
Yeah.
He had a slower boat and was taking a different route.
Yeah, but it's only slower at full speed.
What?
And
he's 8 days behind. He would have had to go faster and catch up.
Yeah, he can go far. It doesn't mean that Mary Celeste is going at full speed.
I don't think it was possible that he gained 8 days. It had to be
8 days. It's probably half a mile down the river on a sailboat.
He had to be. Everyone expects that he couldn't have caught it, but obviously the Mary Celeste could have been stationary for a while.
Yeah, they could have parked up. They could have been caught in slack water for a bit. They could have had storms. They had to wait out. And he could have come across it and thought, I'm having that.
So the bit you're debating here is not necessarily whether he set out to get it, but that whatever happened, he came across it and thought,
there's no evidence to prove that part of it. So, yeah, I'm just saying that it's pretty sus. Anything else I could think of that would cause these people to not be in this ship anymore would cause quite significant damage, and there'd be evidence that it happened.
Okay, so let's consider a couple of reasons what might make him get off the boat. I think generally kind of the fact that they found the makeshift sounding rod on the deck, maybe they thought there was more water on the boat than there actually was. But obviously everyone talks about how experienced Briggs was, so you would think that he would know what a concerning amount of water was and what it wasn't. And it probably wasn't ravished by a storm or anything like that, because the boat was in pretty good shape. So again, you'd think he would know if his boat was at risk because of damage. But maybe he thought it was taking on more water than it was.
Maybe the sounding rod was off, so he thought, oh shit, we're half full of water. I don't know why you wouldn't use your eyes at that point. But
yeah. Also, what is the point in a makeshift sounding rod? Don't you think, isn't that the kind of instrument you'd have on a boat?
No, maybe they were like, well, we forgot the sounding rod. and we sort of need one, so we need to make one. I mean, yeah, if he thought there was a reason to leave the boat, I could see them getting off the boat into the lifeboat, taking the important papers and documents with the intention of coming back and either getting lost, something happening to them, or the ship broke its moorings and sailed off, and they've come back and been like, fuck. And then exposure's got on them. Couldn't call an Uber.
Can you even call a boat Uber today?
I don't know.
Let us know if you can call a boat Uber. I'm not a fan of the sea, so... There was talk, even though I think we can rule out most kind of bad weather, there was talk of a water spout, which is exactly what it sounds like. I think, what is it, a tornado? Hurricane? Tornado in the water. And it quite literally is like, it looks as if the water is just blowing upwards, which it kind of is, I guess, in a way. I'll put a picture on the blog. It is possible this happened and that he then could have thought that if it seemed all a bit dramatic and the sounding rod was off. So yeah, same sort of idea as a sea quake, which, again, obviously didn't do much damage to the ship, but kind of leads me on to my next theory, the cargo. So some of these like weather events could have caused the cargo to appear more unstable than it was. And you remarked at the beginning, obviously, that alcohol is a pretty kind of risky cargo to take, but it does naturally give off fumes. And apparently they did log in the kind of log up until the 25th before they abandoned it, that they heard ominous rumblings and small explosions below deck. But that does suggest that they were aware of what it was and they just sort of got on with it. So, don't know. Do you reckon like they had one slightly bigger explosion and thought, oh shit. And then like you said, maybe they temporarily got off. Let's see if it blows up. If it doesn't, we'll get back on.
Leaving your handbrake off and it rolling down a hill, but in 600 miles of sea.
Yeah, because you know what I couldn't find? Anything about the anchor. It definitely wasn't anchored or done properly because it definitely did sail off by itself, allegedly. But also, then I suppose you're right. We are taking the word of the people on the De Grata boat who found it.
Oh yeah, I'm entertaining these ideas, but in my head, I'm fully sold on them pirating the shit out of this.
Well, they did find 9 barrels of alcohol were empty, so all the barrels were there. But 9 of them were empty. And they were actually 9 that were made out of a different kind of oak. So it could just be that those ones leaked or were a bit more susceptible. And those were the ones that were making all the noise and the explosions.
All the sailors drank it.
But it's weird that they drank those 9, isn't it? The only 9 that were made out of a different oak.
Maybe they thought, well, we can make up a real good reason.
Well, they got away with it. So
I imagine that sailors drinking your alcohol was a little bit of like cost of doing business in those days. Like you just expected some losses along the way. Oh no, we've knocked an entire barrel over.
Yeah, apparently when they got the cargo in Genoa, they remarked that 9 barrels, that was like a normal amount of loss for a cargo of that size. So they didn't seem to care. You mentioned pirating. I know you didn't actually mean actual pirates, but the idea of pirates was floated around for a bit, but there was way too much good stuff left on that boat.
The alcohol.
In my opinion. Yeah.
The boat.
Yeah. You'd take the boat, or even if you couldn't take the boat, you'd at least take like several barrels of alcohol, wouldn't you?
Or you'd sink the boat.
Yeah, so I think pirates is like not even in the realms of
I deem it very unlikely. Right. So we've gone through what I imagine is pretty much the only rational events that could have happened. What are the more bizarre stuff that I know people have cooked up on the internet?
Okay. What about a giant octopus or squid or kraken? Or
Well, the
mythical
kraken is a
beasts?
mythical beast. So I'm ruling out mythical beasts.
Okay,
So
but realistically
no unicorns.
though, there could have been a giant squid.
They could have, but they've never actually proved that they A, attack ships, and B, grow big enough to attack a ship.
But the ship was in fairly good state. So what if I proposed to you they didn't take out the ship, they took out the lifeboat? It still doesn't explain why they got on the lifeboat, but let's then consider the fact that you've got all these people on a lifeboat or off the ship. Where are they?
Well, they're dead, Joe, because they were murdered by the people that stole the boat.
Or because it's like more than 100 years later.
Oh, all that, yeah.
But, okay, all right. Let's put a pin in the idea. We are obviously going to visit that. But let's put a pin in the idea that the boat was stolen and the Captain Morehouse was involved. What do you think the most logical reason for them getting off the boat is? And what happened to them? Like, where did they go? And could the little lifeboat have been taken out by a giant squid?
I mean, it could have been taken out by a humpback whale, but it doesn't mean it was.
Oh, I haven't got that on here. Well done. Added a theory.
Well, any little boats can be knocked over by anything bigger than them. So there are things in the sea bigger than a lot of lifeboats, or that can create enough force to knock one over. But I don't think that a giant squid did it. I don't think there's much benefit from a giant squid. They don't eat wood.
Do they eat people?
Well, yeah, but I don't think it's intelligent enough to be like, there's people on that boat.
Mm.
I think it more eats things that are alive in front of it.
People have pointed out that the last log in the ship's log that was made on 25th of November, they were close-ish to Santa Maria Island, and then there was no land for hundreds of miles. So a good captain would have realistically abandoned ship nearest to land, like as near as possible. And I did wonder, because it wasn't documented, right? We did go back and check Santa Maria Island, right? Like,
I presume so.
Have we solved this? Like, are they
time,
all there?
It's a lot of effort. I mean, I assume we've been back.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that we went there to look. I really couldn't find anything
Probably
to say
wasn't
either
worth
way.
it, because the chances are they died at sea.
Well, it's not just that. It wasn't like this small abandoned island that like wasn't discovered for years later. It was an island that people regularly went to. So even if they had made it to that island and didn't make it back for a while, eventually a ship would have gone there and they would have said, we got abandoned here. Please, can I get on your ship and go for help? So you think at some point over the next few years they would have turned up and they didn't. So I guess that's part two of the question is like, where are they?
Oh, they're dead, Joe. They're so dead. Whatever happened, they are so dead.
Well, but what if, though, people started putting forward mythical theories?
No.
So what if they, like, it was all related to the city of Atlantis? Maybe they found it, entered, and the boat was, like, just left there.
How did they enter?
I don't know, because it's mythical.
I'm ruling out the mythical lands as well.
Do you think it's more likely that we would have found it then by accident, though, than it is now? Probably not. We're looking for it now,
I think that Atlantis, there may have been a place that resembled Atlantis, but there is no real Atlantis. It's an allegory. It's about becoming too big for your britches and power being taken away from you by a man who's famously poetic.
Do you think they could have got sucked into Hollow Earth?
No.
Oh. A lot of people brought up the Bermuda Triangle, which annoys me because I love a Bermuda Triangle mystery as much as the next person. But we are miles and miles away from Bermuda. Like, we're not anywhere near it. Not even close.
No, maybe did they sail through it?
No.
Oh. 'Cause maybe they sailed through it, disappeared, and then the boat carried on. I don't know why I'm leading. Like, I don't believe in the Bermuda Triangle either. So
no, they didn't sail through it. So.
You know that, a side note, statistically, if you do the maths, there's not actually more missing boats in the Bermuda Triangle.
Really?
No, if you do the maths, it's proportionate.
This is madness. Why are we so afraid of the Bermuda Triangle? They're planes.
No, even planes and shit. Like, if you do, like, I can't remember what it was, but remember someone's done the maths, and
right.
Basically this, like, when there's no abnormal amount of missing boats in that particular area. Sometimes boats just go missing.
Well, I do have a Bermuda Triangle story to bring to you in a few weeks, so I will look at that statistic then.
Excellent. More opportunity to use my useless knowledge. Can't wait to talk about the Bimini Road.
Didn't we talk about that in Atlantis?
Yeah.
Because obviously Bermuda Triangle comes up in Atlantis. We go back a few episodes. Well, it's a lot now.
Yeah.
It was last year, but it was a good one. Anyway, we'll come back to you on the Bermuda Triangle. But in terms of the Mary Celeste, I just don't think that was a thing. Now, Arthur Conan Doyle, some of his early work actually included a story for a magazine where he suggested that a ship called the Mary Celeste was kidnapped and passengers were murdered, except for one who had magical powers, and there was a slave who came back and killed everyone for revenge. Now, he even said that this was not a true story, and he never expected any of this to be taken seriously. But the people that were involved in the Gibraltar hearing decided that actually, maybe this is something worth looking into. And they wondered if that kind of thing might have happened here.
Lunacy. Absolute lunacy. You just used the story of the Mary Celeste as like inspiration.
Yeah.
You didn't even bother changing the fucking barely changing the name of the boat. You changed it from a Y to an IE.
Because of him as well, it does commonly get reported as the Mary Celeste, but it is the Mary. I thought that was fun. I have to agree with you though. If the guy writing it is even saying, look, like this was.
I wasn't there, guys. I have no reference for this whatsoever. But that's what everyone's doing because no one was there.
Except, and we come full circle, Captain Morehouse.
Mm-hmm. And he's the one that stole the boat and killed everyone.
Now, aside from crazy out there theories, even more so like UFOs, which I just don't know that they'd bother with this particular boat, and why not take the alcohol? But let's look at Captain Morehouse as I say, we're bringing us full circle here. My thing about this is, first of all, you then saying that you've got to get all 8 people on his boat to agree to this lie as well.
Well, the promise of money is not for no benefit.
They didn't get half as much as they thought they would. But
that doesn't matter. No. If you break into a bank and open the vault and the vault's empty, the police aren't going to be like, well, they didn't steal anything.
No, but I mean,
so their plan was to get a lot of money. Just because they didn't get a lot of money doesn't make the plan any less plausible. They couldn't see the future and go, well, I don't think we're actually only going to get 1,600 for this.
Some people suggested that maybe the 2 captains were in it together.
Well, one of them's dead, so he got betrayed.
Yeah. If they were in it together, he did a terrible job.
Yeah, and he's lost his wife and kids.
Yeah. Someone reported in a book, a historian later on, that he thought that Captain Briggs had suffered like a religious mania and killed everyone and then killed himself. He later apologised for such a crazy out there theory, but
it's one of the many possibilities, but where it is, I still think it's the most plausible is theft.
Okay, right then. Now that you've heard all my theories, let's make some decisions. Did Captain Morehouse intend to find the boat and kill everyone, or come across it empty? Or, no, let me rephrase that, or just come across it empty or with people?
I think it's more likely he came across it.
I think I'd agree. I think
whatever
he maybe saw his luck and thought,
yeah, like, oh, they're off course, or like that, because their compass may have broken beforehand. And they got a little bit lost, and he found them, thought, I could offer help and then kill them all.
Well, that's a good point. Some people thought they might have known each other. Some said this was just like sort of through reputation, because they were both kind of quite good captains. But the widow of Captain Morehouse 50 years later reported that they actually had dinner together the night before the Mary Celeste launched. But it's possible. But even if they just knew by name, if they were in some sort of trouble, or they were in the wrong course, they might have even like waved over Captain Morehouse and been like, come aboard, help us, type thing. And then he was like, I could have these guys.
Yeah, if I know my maritime salvage laws correctly.
Do you not think there would have been some fight if the boat was full?
No.
Really? We wouldn't have seen any, I don't know, actual blood? Yeah.
No, I think it would have been a weapon pointed at someone who wasn't expecting it, with the opportunity to get in the lifeboat or die. And then they got in the lifeboat and were let go and died.
You would think that after all of this horrible, horrible stories we told, I wouldn't have such a hard time believing that this guy murdered 8 people or was involved in the murder of 8
These horrible
people.
stories are part of the reason why it's my go-to. Like, people are shit.
I do.
People are shit. And
But he was a respected sea captain.
So was so were most pirates at some point.
Piracy was kind of over though, wasn't it? I mean, I know there were still pirates
There's
around.
Still pirate now.
This weren't like the golden age of piracy, like when we spoke about Blackbeard.
He wasn't hanging out with the greats, but you could still do piracy.
Yeah.
I could go out and do piracy right now. It doesn't make me a pirate. But
It does. But that also begs the question, why didn't he just pirate the ship? Why didn't he just take the alcohol, put it aboard his ship, or like sail the ship to like some sort of near
because it's not
pirate
his ship,
port?
it's someone else's ship. And he's got to explain where all this alcohol fucking came from. He's got to get it unloaded and get rid of it. Or he can hand it in and just get some of the profit.
Do you not think you would have made more money selling it on like the black pirate market?
I don't know. But I know it would have been more difficult, and that would have been illegitimate money that he'd then have to launder. This way he gets clean, government-approved money.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
It's a simpler plan than trying to sell it on.
I did wonder why we haven't like found the people, but this comes back to, again, I've said this before, the sea is massive.
You're not going to find dead bodies in the bottom of the ocean.
I know. Yeah, but like, or the boat, or like any kind of like, I know. It just always bothers me that we can't find these things. But really, I know that the sea is just incomprehensibly large. Like, it's like when we spoke about it in MH370, we knew roughly where that went and we still can't find it.
Yeah, I mean, they've got no reference of it, and they've only got this guy's word about what happened and where the boat was. They've got no references to even remotely start looking for these people.
Okay, so you're going with he killed them and took their boat.
Well, he killed them. I'm going with he forced them onto the lifeboat and they died. He didn't directly. I don't think he directly killed anyone because that would be messy.
But that's a bit of a risk because what if they'd have survived? Then they would have been like, he stole my boat. So surely he would have had to have killed them.
But he probably, or he just did it out of, because like if people know they're going to die, they're quite difficult to deal with. But if they think they've got a chance, they'll be more compliant. So yeah, we'll get on this boat, and maybe the lifeboat didn't make it. I'm not saying it's a perfect plan, but I'm not sure whether he killed them then or they were killed by his actions later on. But yeah, they're dead. I just think with these mysteries, the simplest answer is probably the most likely.
I think I agree. I think Captain Morehouse was responsible, but for me, I can't get past the idea that if he was telling the truth, then this is just, and we're never going to know. Like, does this kind of thing not keep you up at night? We're never going to know.
I'm fine with that. Don't really care.
Do you feel like you're maybe on the wrong podcast?
Well,
no, I mean, you're here as the rational mind, so.
I mean, I'd like to know, but if I don't, I'm not going to be like 3:00 in the morning. What happened to the Mary Celeste?
It doesn't bother me as much as MH370, but yes, these things keep me up at night.
No, I'll promptly forget we talked about this.
Okay, well, just the ship did deliver its cargo, and eventually it sank as part of an insurance scam in 1885, and they have found bits of it, which is in museums and stuff, if you're interested. And I will go into a little bit more detail about why the court couldn't prove, the hearing couldn't prove what happened, sort of what the links were between the crews, take a bit of a sort of deeper dive into mutiny, and maybe we'll have a closer look at some of the more out there theories as well, and why they possibly maybe didn't happen. You can find our blog at mysteryoflifepodcast.co.uk. You can follow us on Instagram at the Mystery of Life Pod, and we'll be back next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.